Recently, news surfaced that IRAS probes home buyers who use the 99-to-1 loophole that could be used to avoid paying additional buyer's stamp duty or ABSD. So what is this 99-to-1 method? But before we proceed, disclaimer that this video is made based on my limited understanding. I highly recommend you to still read through the IRAS website to understand the official ruling. From the different sources that I've read, this 99-to-1 method is referring to tenancy in common whereby a private property is held by several parties in the form of a percentage, and this is typically used for investment properties. The percentage itself can be 50-50, 25-25-50, etc. In the case of 99-to-1, this means one owner holds 99% shares and the other one holds 1% share. There are several scenarios that can benefit from tenancy in common. The first scenario is for first-time property buyers who intend to buy a second condo in the future. Let's say the husband holds 1% of the shares while the wife holds 99% of the shares. Because they are both Singapore citizens and it's their first property, then they don't need to pay ABSD. If, let's say, several years later, the couple wants to acquire another property, the husband can transfer his 1% share to his wife, making her the full owner of the condo. The amazing part is, the stamp duty will be based on that 1% property value only. The husband can then move on to purchase another private property without paying any ABSD. The second scenario is for a married couple whereby one is Singaporean and the other one is a foreigner buying their first matrimonial home. Normally, a foreigner will get hit by 30% ABSD. But since the partner is Singaporean, this couple can apply to get full ABSD remission. When this couple is ready to decouple and buy a second investment home, the foreign spouse who's holding on to 99% will buy over the 1% share. The outgoing spouse must be the Singaporean. After decoupling, the outgoing spouse has no property under his name and therefore pays no ABSD for the second home. The third scenario is when a single buyer cannot meet the total debt servicing ratio or TDSR requirements to buy their first property with his or her income alone because they can only use a maximum of 55% of their income to get loans. So, two or more buyers can come together in order to qualify for a bigger loan. This can be husband and wife, parent and child, siblings, etc. But apparently, there are several details that ended up being used as loopholes. First of all, as long as you are listed as the owner, regardless of the percentage of your shares, there's no difference in how much CPF and mortgage loan you can apply. Second, there is no time limit on when you can transfer your shares to other people. That means you can buy a private property today and transfer the 1% of your share to other people within several days. You don't need to wait for a certain number of months or years. The third one is stamp duty is calculated based on the shares transacted. So to buy over that 1% shares, the ABSD and BSD will be calculated against that 1%. If, let's say, the apartment is worth $1 million and you want to transact 1% of shares, then the stamp duty is calculated only against that $10,000. And the fourth point is that for new property launches specifically, apparently buyers are not required to have bank loans ready when confirming purchases with the developers. And this is where the exploitation happens. Let's say Mr. A is a Singaporean who already has one property under his name and he is financially ready to buy another flat. But if he just directly buys another launch flat, he will be subjected to 17% of ABSD. So what he can do is ask his Singaporean niece to buy. Because she doesn't have any property yet, she doesn't need to pay for ABSD. And because it's a new launch, she is also not required to show bank loan proof when confirming the purchase with the developers. She then sold her 1% of shares with her uncle, Mr. A. Yes, Mr. A still needs to pay ABSD of 17%, but it will be against the 1% price of the property instead of the full price of the property. And because now he is legally one of the owners of that property, he can go to the bank and apply for a mortgage loan. And such cases seems to be what IRAS is investigating at the moment. They basically pull up all the 99-to-1 shares and investigate who sold their shares in less than a week after exercising the purchase option. Although I personally never heard of this 99-to-1 method before it went on the news, But apparently, in the real estate industry, this is a well-known loophole. According to an article on the Singapore Law Watch website, a property agent said he was not surprised by the audit because he knew quite a number of buyers at property launches were advised to exploit this loophole to bring in co-owners later. This is because the buyers were not required to have bank loans ready when confirming purchases with the developers. The penalty itself is quite severe. IRAS made a statement that if tax avoidance is detected, IRAS can claw back the rightful amount of stamp duty and impose a 50% surcharge. So if the property value is 1 million and that uncle in my illustration above already has a property, the total tax plus penalty is more than $250,000. And if that uncle already owns 2 properties, then the total tax plus penalty is more than $370,000 in total. And to make matters worse, IRAS also said that if they are not paid by the deadline, the penalties can be increased up to 4 times of the outstanding amount. So, if your tax plus penalty is already more than $250,000 and then you don't pay by the deadline, the total can be more than 1 million. This probably will put the uncle in a very tough position and might even have to sell the property to pay IRAS. It is interesting though that the government is taking a crack at this now when, according to a financial planner and a property agent interviewed by Straits Times, this loophole has been around for quite some time. Straits Times saw one of the letters that IRAS sent regarding the 99-to-1 transaction that happened in 2021. But an expert even says that it's not impossible for IRAS to go as far back as 2011 when ABSD was first introduced because there's no time bar for such audits. Another interesting question is why the approach in handling this 99-to-1 loophole is different from the approach in cracking down the trust method, which was considered another loophole in the past. So back in 2022, the government imposed a 35% ABSD for any transfer of a residential property into a living trust. In the past, wealthy families could buy a house for their Singaporean child or grandchild and put it under a trust. The downside is they would have to pay in full cash because bank doesn't give loans to minors. But on the other hand, the parent or grandparent doesn't have to pay ABSD. So this was considered a loophole back then as well. However, at that time, the government didn't seem to go after the individuals who had trust arrangements in the past. So it is interesting why they are working backward to investigate past 99-to-1 transactions instead of revising the regulation moving forward to stop the exploitation. Well, I'm sure now is a very scary time for the buyers who did shady transactions because IRAS pretty much has everything they need to investigate this. They have your reported annual income, whether the property is occupied or rented out, how much is it being rented out, etc. It is even scarier if they work together with banks to trace the financial trail on who's paying the down payment and the majority of the loan, the rental incomes goes to whose account, etc. Another thing that will be interesting to observe is whether there will be any consequences for the property agents and investment gurus that were socializing this 99-to-1 loophole. Because this 99-to-1 method is not exactly common knowledge. And what about the lawyers who are involved in the transactions? Are they going to get penalized as well? So what can we learn from this? My personal learning is that if something sounds too good to be true, then it's better to double check with the respective government bodies rather than blindly trust your property agent or investment gurus. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!